This week in Pax Dei, we got a bunch of new screenshots showing some of the updated work that is being done in dungeons for the upcoming Alpha 2, as well as a bunch of new images of a couple of different animals that we are going to be able to hunt in game. All of that and a lot more is going to be getting covered in today's episode of the Pax FriDEI Review, the show where we talk about all of the fun, interesting, new, and exciting stuff that is dropped in Pax Dei over the last week. Hello, everyone. I am Eltari, the professional gamer, and we are going to just jump straight into all of these screenshots. There are a lot to go over, and we are going to continue to speed through them and catch any of the interesting stuff that you might have missed when you saw them. And with that all being said, please don't forget to share this video with any of your friends who might be interested in Pax Dei, like this video, and subscribe so that you can stay up to date on all of the exciting stuff that is coming out for Pax Dei. All right, let's go ahead and look at some screenshots. All right, and here we are. So before we get completely into the screenshots, one thing I did want to say is it feels as though we are getting closer and closer to an announcement. Mainframe did something really similar to this right before they unveiled to us Alpha 1's timeline. It was just a lot of screenshots that were coming out, and the uniqueness or interest level for these screenshots seem to plateau and potentially even start taking a curve downward. So I do feel like we are getting even closer to a Alpha 2 announcement date. You can bet your bottom dollar that we will be covering any of that news when and if it comes out in the coming weeks. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But for this first image here, it looks like we have an image in what is potentially a haunted biome. Typically these woods are found there, and then we got some stone cairns there. It looks like there's some kind of inlet over here, though I can't really tell. It feels like this might be something important, or else why would they show it? But we can't really see the rest of the image, so we'll have to go and find it in game when we get in. Now, this image is one that always excites me. This looks like it is the entrance to a dungeon, or maybe it's already inside of a dungeon. This I don't know, but I can say without a doubt that I have seen similar instances like this. It might also be a cave, and maybe even this cave is leading on to a dungeon entrance as well. That might be something entirely new that we haven't seen before. For this screenshot, the first thing that I got really, really excited about when I saw this is, and it might be pretty hard for you to tell here, but this image right here looks like it is a bow, but it is pointed in the wrong direction. In addition to that, you can kind of make out a little bit of a post here as well. And then you have this very characteristic, almost metal looking bar of some sort right here. Y'all, I think what we are looking at right here is the first confirmed image of a crossbow, and that excites the heck out of me. Now, the one thing that doesn't excite me is if this is a crossbow, it looks like it might be getting held the wrong way. So if this is an image of the most recent build for Alpha 2, looks like there is still a lot of work in progress things. Another thing that I did notice is this actually looks very reminiscent of a couple of the dungeon entrances that existed in Alpha 1. The only difference is that this little section right here wasn't blocked off before, and there was actually a staircase that you could go down into, which would lead you to a dungeon. This does not look like it is the case, at least in this one. Might just be a closed off entrance. Maybe there's a different way that you can get in, but there also looks to be a couple of small passageways here as well. But really exciting if this is a crossbow, and I know there will be a lot of people who are going to be excited to use that in the future. Then right here, we have one of our first images. This is definitely a dungeon entrance, if it's anything like the dungeons from Alpha 1. And we have 3 intrepid adventurers going in to potentially their doom. Now, we did get what looks to be some updated artwork. All of these were carvings or murals that were found in a dungeon, it looks like. And this one is just really cool. You got a bunch of bodies that are climbing out and trying to claw their way up. The perspective is a little off here, though, so really zooming in isn't going to get us any more information. And this one is one of my favorite images. Now, my favorite images are the murals, and we'll see that in a couple pictures here, but this one is really cool just because, I mean, imagine you're there and in this dungeon and you see all of these creatures that are like crawling their way up into what looks to be the open world. I think this is definitely something to do with the origins of the Zebians, and you can see they're kind of clawing their ways up and out into what I would imagine is the creation or the place that we, the players, are mostly playing in. And then another aspect of Zebians is that they have this insatiable hunger. So there's always these feast motifs that exist in all of their dungeons, which is another reason why I think this is indeed a Zebian dungeon. In fact, I think we've only really seen Zebian dungeons. We haven't seen Sethian ones yet, but just a lot of different foods. We've got apples, grapes. Some of it looks maggoty. Other bits of it looks like it's perfectly preserved pie. If that's a thing, I don't even know. But in the last alpha, we were actually able to find some of these and then loot them, which was a really cool feature that they added. Although a lot of the stuff that you got from it didn't really have a good loot table, and sometimes it was just some pretty useless gear that you were getting from it. Now, here is one of the several murals that we got a screenshot of, and this one looks like we're at some kind of ritual location here. Someone is rising up out of what looks to be a casket, and then there's a bunch of observers. Now, a couple of these definitely look like they're Zebian. I know Zebians can have short or long hair. We've seen a couple of concept arts of more longer haired versions that seem to have it kind of bunned up in a way. But either way, there is definitely something coming out of a casket. And I feel like there's going to be some kind of gameplay oriented around these caskets. Maybe at some point we're going to have to close them up in dungeons to keep more Zebians from spawning or something. But it's also important to know that in Pax Dei, these murals might very well give the player hints as to ways to progress into the dungeon further, or how to defeat a boss in the dungeon, or how to defeat a boss in a dungeon that's several different zones away, or any of that stuff. So all of these things are actually really, really important for us as the players to look at and evaluate. Now, whether or not any of those particular kind of adventure elements, I guess we can call them, are going to be in Alpha 2 is yet to be seen. But I think it is a really positive step, even if we're just already getting these murals, and maybe they don't really lead anywhere yet, but they can definitely lead somewhere in the future. And I definitely think that that is part of the developers' plan over at Mainframe. Now, here is a very intimidating image of what looks to be some sort of demon, or a picture of a demon entity, or possibly some kind of dark god or something like that. We have a lot of supplication going on at the bottom of this image, where it looks like people are either worshiping this individual or something like that. But either way, this is a very intimidating image, a very ominous image, and it really begs the question what we as players are going to find on the inside of this particular door as well. So really cool artwork. And then here is another image. It looks like it is a twin-headed snake, possibly. I can't make out the other head, but it's definitely combed around in kind of a way that you'd see maybe a twin-headed snake. Or maybe this is its tail there. But either way, snakes in medieval times had a very particular motif or theme about them. They were typically used in particular ways. Serpents were typically not perceived as good things. And this mural is also over a doorway we can see at the bottom here as well. So again, really interesting to see these kind of elements already making it into the game. And it makes me hopeful that we have some of these adventure elements where these pictures might depict and give players hints as to where they can find particular pieces of gear, or even how they can fight bosses, or that some bosses even exist. And they might not necessarily be something that's connected in that dungeon, but it might be something that's connected 5 dungeons down the way. So really cool that we're seeing that. And then this one, I think, was just a comedic entry into the midweek screenshot dump. And that is a lot of deaths. So if it was just those original 3 explorers, I mean, we've got at least 12 different death markers here. That is nuts. It does look like they have the new kind of sparkle where they died. This is going to be really helpful for us as players when we're looking for our particular thing, tombstone, but it's going to get really, really hard if there's no way to really distinguish between ours and someone else's. Maybe this is only just one person's. I don't know, but yeah, that's a lot of sparkle in order to comb through and find your gear. All right, so then the second screenshot dump of the week was a lot of images of the various creatures that we will find in the actual creation. So we went up from the dungeons and now we're hanging out in the creation. We're on the top level and we have a lot of pretty detailed images of the different wildlife that exists in game. We got a badger here. We have a very, very intimidating bear mid-roar, and it does not look like that is something we want to mess with. Although, if you can tell in the background, I can't see if this is a tree trunk or if it's one of those tombstone death beams, but it's potentially that someone died right behind that bear. And there's pretty good reason why, it seems. Then we got a almost action shot of a doe seemingly eating some different foliage. Then we have a image of a fox, actually kind of a low poly image of a fox, like it hasn't loaded in its LOD yet, but this almost looks like a potentially new region here. I haven't really seen these types of rock formations yet, so really interesting if they've added in a couple more biomes as well. And there's still bears in this biome, it seems, and this bear is definitely looking like it's looking for some of its next meal. Then we have a couple of wolves here as well, and a nice screenshot of a point of interest. This looks like it's a Sethian camp. We got a couple of Sethians posted there doing their thing. Now, I have traveled around a lot of different areas, and this particular one isn't really ringing a bell, at least in terms of the overall vista. Normally, you'd be able to make out kind of where you're at based on what the vista looks like. There is a really tall mountain right here, and I know Ancien does have a really tall mountain in the center of the map, but I would expect there to be a lot more smaller mountains kind of bordering that. So it's entirely possible that in Alpha 2 we're going to be getting a new map or a new couple of maps, and this might be from that map. Who knows? Then we have another mountainside image of a doe looking out on some kind of scenic view. Can't really tell because we can't see it, but really nice cinematic shot there. and we have a boar. It is nice to see that these animals are actually interacting with the rocks. And I know people might be saying, well, Eltari, that should just be a normal feature. Like, this should be the way that it is. Well, in the last alpha, there was a common issue where boars would spawn on top of buildings. In my guild in particular, we had a holy porcine visitor. A lot of the time, a boar would spawn itself on the roof of our cathedral. It was quite funny, and we even ended up making an altar for it. I don't know why. And here is now a far more detailed image of the fox that we saw in the previous screenshot. I really do like how detailed these things can get. I mean, we even have whiskers on this model. It is really, really cool, the level of detail that we can get on these things. Yeah, that's a badger. He looks like he's really happy to see us, though. But on enough note, his eyes, mainframe, if you are watching this, I think his eyes might just be a little off and wall-eyed there. You might want to have someone take a look at that. And then we got a rabbit hopping around in a field. This looks like to be a meadow biome here, so it's probably inside of a home valley. And that is all of the images that we have for today. I know we went through a lot, and I probably seemed like I was going through them really quickly, but that is mostly because I am excited that we're at this phase of the news cycle for Pax Dei, where we've experienced this once before. The number of cool and interesting things that are coming out seem to get lower and lower and lower as mainframe is preparing for what I would imagine, as we're getting close to the end of the second quarter here, that they're getting ready to announce Alpha 2. I am very, very excited to learn more about it, learn what we're going to be testing, what the focus of the test is going to be, and I'm sure all of you are too. So if you haven't done so already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like this video if you enjoyed this type of content, leave a comment down below with the thing you are most excited for Pax Dei's Alpha 2. Are we thinking we're going to be getting information on combat, more crafting? Are we going to get additional types of points of interest to explore? Let me know what you all think down below. And with all of that being said, thank you for watching to the end of the video. I'd also like to thank our channel members. I truly do appreciate your support. And until next time, I'm Eltari, the Professional Gamer.